Lamba, that's a good photo of you. I think it was during
the conference.
HRSC.
Yeah, I like it too.
Yeah.
Yeah, a long time ago.
Even true, eh? So long ago. Sorry. Okay, I think everyone that should be a co-host is a co-host. Cool. And we should start. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to OSM Fiji's Open Data Socialization Workshop. Just before we get started, we used to actually have these workshops to talk about the value of open data, sources of open data, and even have incorporate a little bit of demo and training sessions. But for this workshop, it's more of a talk about our local industry, and these four speakers will share about their career progression. OSM Fiji is supported by the Hot OSM Facebook Impact Microgrant, which allows us to do activities like this. So we have this workshop, and we also have a mapathon tomorrow. So if you haven't registered, you should be able to find a ticket at the same place, same time. And the mapathon is tomorrow at the same place, same time, basically. Okay. Just some house rules. As you've entered the room, you would have noticed that you're all on mute. Please, just for the sake of knowing who is who, to ensure that your name is correct on Zoom, to keep your microphone muted, and if you have low bandwidth, to keep your video off at all times. And if you have any questions or comments during their talks, it would be great if you could put it in a comment, comment it in the chat box, or you could also raise a hand if you have a question. We'll have Q&A sessions at the end of each talk. And then we can have sort of like a wrap up at the end of the 4 talks. So this is a quick agenda. We have Lemba from UNITA, Shaheel from the GIM division at the Ministry of Lands and Mineral Resources, Aileen Prasad from Eusp, and Aquila from the Ministry of Lands and Mineral Resources, but the Minerals Department. As I mentioned, we'll have a Q&A session, and we'll have some community updates at the end to kind of wrap up the workshop for today. Okay, so our first speaker is Lemba. She's UNITA's technical expert for the Common Sensing project in Fiji. She has over 15 years of experience in GIS and remote sensing applications in natural resource management, land administration, disasters reduction, and climate change. She's a strong advocate in developing Fiji's geospatial industry, and she actively supports a lot of our open data initiatives, such as OSM Fiji. And she's heavily involved in capacity building and strengthening local capacities and leveraging technologies to help Fiji achieve their sustainable development goals. She's also a board member of the Pacific GIS and Remote Sensing Council, which is namely responsible for the Pacific GIS and Remote Sensing User Conference at the end of each year. So without further ado, welcome to Lemba.
Thank you. I'll try and share my screen now. Hold on.
It's coming.
Hang on. My screen is frozen a bit. Hang on.
There we go.
Presentation style. Just give me a minute. Okay. You see my full screen now?
Yep, looks good.
Cool. Okay, hi everyone. Thank you for tuning in. So today I'm going to talk about, let me just pull this to this side, talk about my journey in this GIS and remote sensing industry, this dynamic industry in Fiji, with the hope that some of the lessons learned and insights that I may discuss from these experiences you may find helpful in your own journey and in your aspirations. So even much earlier on, before coming to USP, I did geography and history in high school. So I've always been interested in learning about the environment, Earth's systems, its history, and how we interact with the systems and how that evolves over time. So that is something I've always felt passionately curious about. And of course, I wanted to discover more about the world. And then I wanted to pursue a field of learning where it would improve my understanding in these areas that I'm curious, that I want to know more about. And then that brought me to my Bachelor of Arts in Geography and Management and Development at Eusp, graduated in 2006. So following that, while I was doing my undergraduate degree, I did a part-time job as well as with the Geospatial lab at the time. So from 2004 to 2006, earning some pocket money through supervising the GIS labs. And after I graduated, I did 1 year with SOPAC before taking up a master's scholarship to go to Japan to do 2 years master's degree. But preceding that, I had to do 6 months of intensive Japanese language course. So that's pretty much, my educational journey. When I was in USP right after high school, I met this lecturer. I'm bringing out here the importance of, just engaging in some part-time jobs that can strengthen your resume, strengthen your portfolios, and where you can network with the people that have, knowledge and experience in the areas that you are interested in. So I met this lecturer when I was in high school, and she gave me like a part-time job right after high school. And she was a geography lecturer at USP. So from my network with her, I pursued a Bachelor of Arts in Geography, and she introduced me to GIS. It was an emerging field at the time. And so I wanted to incorporate this GIS and remote sensing that I learned so much or hear so much about from her. I wanted to incorporate that in my curriculum. So that at the time, back then, we didn't have like a specific geospatial degree. So I did geography and IS, and then I later changed my second major into land management and development. So I did that with the plans of studying as much about the connections and the trends, how we influence the Earth's systems, and this interchangeable, interrelated field. So yeah, I went on to USP, and after that, as a student, while I was doing my bachelor's, we do student projects. So at the time, I would ask some people in industry. So I made a appointment with director environment at the time, and like I asked him, older people, like direct environment. I met up with a few other directors, but I bring up direct environment because at the time he was really, really helpful. How, if I were to pilot a GIS project that would specifically address a need that your operation needs, give me like top five projects that I would do that would make an impact to your operation. So these are some approaches you can like link up with real time issues that's happening that ministries have to deal with, and then you could come up with some innovative solution around that. So that I share because This is one of the areas that I believe helped earlier on in my journey. Tie your projects to real issues, not just theoretical or textbook-based issues that some other countries face, but may not be so urgent or may not be a priority for your country's plans. So ask the local heads of departments, what are your needs in this space? And if you can contribute to helping them, like what do they need from you to look at? So I did my undergraduate projects focusing on issues that were flagged directly by these heads of departments. And because of that networking as well, I would have access to the ministry's library and books. So it helped in my research as well. And in terms of getting data, if you're connected already with the heads of these departments, it's easier for them to pick up a phone call and call another head of department and say, this girl is helping us with this project. Can you share this data with us? So it's helpful in that networking as well. Yeah, so in terms of job experience, following on from my education, that's been a trend that I found out how I find out about positions. So after I did my final year project presentation, I had 2 job offers, one from the Institute of Applied Science and one from SOPAC at the time. So I took up the job from SOPAC while I was waiting news on my master's scholarship. So it's mostly through those connections that you get, you get flagged opportunities as well. Yeah, so now I started after my master's, following SOPAC work. After I returned from my master's, I engaged in some consultancies at the time because I returned, and right after that, early stages of starting a family. So it was convenient for me to engage in consultancies. While I worked from home. So I did consultancy with SPREP, the Ministry of Environment, and the European Commission and MWH. So when my child was a little bit bigger and I was, I was okay to do full-time job. So I started with the Ministry of Lands and Minerals. And that was, I spent about 5 years at the Ministry of Lands through 3 positions in those years. And through my network with Ministry of Lands, I came to know about this common sensing project, again, flagged that they were looking for an in-country GIS technical expert to be their hands on the ground in the implementation of the work packages and activities across the 4 thematic sectors that they're focusing on. So that's how I came to work for the United Nations Satellite Center, UNITA, which is a part of UNITA, and I've been engaged with them from 2019 to date. Yeah, in terms of what UNISAT, my agency, does in Fiji, we at the moment have the Common Sensing project that is wrapping up. This is funded by the UK Space Agency. It's a project that looked at food security, DRR, climate finance, and geospatial information to support climate information to support these bankable climate financing proposals. So we worked across these 4 sectors in the 3 to 4 years. It's wrapping up in 2 months, and we are transitioning to a new project called Strengthening Capacities in the Use of Geospatial Information for Improved Resilience, NORAD, and that will take us expanding on the activities from common sensing and adding further applications that may be relevant to some sectors in this, to a few other sectors that we're bringing on board. And then most recently, we have this a mini project with UNDRR to conduct in situ adaptation study, basically looking at the 15 communities that's been flagged, considered for relocation, and exploring other alternative interventions that may still be possible, that could still be explored to try to avoid the relocation of these vulnerable communities. So that's our work at the moment, and part of our support to the government, we do provide geospatial and remote sensing trainings We support workshops that come under these thematic areas. And we can process and work with satellite imageries that the sectors may request, and deploy applications that meet the needs of the industries that we work with. In terms of software, I don't have I don't particularly favor one software over another exactly. So which software you use depends on what your agency or what you can afford and personal preference. So I noted some of the things below that that influence which software choice I choose. So yeah, I need the software to be interoperable and user-friendly, that it has GIS functions, that is convenient and seamlessly, using internet technology, so that it's accessible, so that people in other divisions that may want to contribute data sets to the platform can easily connect. So more or less like a connected integrated system, which is why at work I use mostly Esri, less complex interface. There are lots of options, but I would, it's really up to you. When I was a student, I used mostly QGIS. So a lot of the GIS applications, a lot of the GIS analysis that you can use on Esri, you can also do on QGIS. So if you're looking for, just analytical software, there's a lot of open source tools that are available. You don't have to invest largely in Esri to get the same results. But there's an organization-wide enterprise system for the convenience of non-technical users as well, to connecting to these systems. We work with Esri. So in my organization, we use both. So for Fiji, we deploy mostly Esri applications. For Solomon Islands and Vanuatu and other 5 countries we work with, there's a lot more open source use. So it depends. It depends on your user need and whatever enables you to achieve the results that you want, because that's ultimately what you want. It should be focused on the purpose and the results, which one is more convenient for you to have the product or the results that you aim for. Okay, in terms of just a few words on future plans, I've always wanted to be in a position where I could influence or make a difference in communities across the Pacific. So a lot of the projects, a lot of the engagements I have been involved in so far ties to these goals. And of course, future plans, I would expect to have my PhD once my kids are a little bit bigger, and to engage as advisory support to government. Of course, I would want early retirement and engage in entrepreneurship ventures and future consultancy opportunities, leveraging on this work experience and networks you've built through these years, where you can contribute better, you can contribute more to, and you have the flexibility also at the time to help make a difference in communities across your country and the Pacific. Just career, just the takeaways from my, from my journey. I would encourage that you network and leverage, learnings from senior professionals. There are a lot of opportunities you'd find if you talk to like people that are a lot more experienced in the industries that you're in. You'll learn from them, pick on their brains, learn from their experience, what works, what doesn't. It could save you a lot of time as well, and you could see how you can do things better, how you can maybe contribute with the access that we have now, with available technologies that we have now. What real issues can you address? And you can you can encourage or cultivate those networks through volunteers. So like with me, it started with a workshop assistant, part-time job from high school that, linked me to that geography lecturer that kind of, just one after another helped help propel my career. And then you identify, like I said, identify the gaps in your chosen industry. So once you identify these gaps, say once I leave this, if I leave this space, once I move on to the next part of my career, you would like to leave behind an impact. You would like to have made a difference, to have contributed something to the agency or to those that you work in. So explore and propose solutions. Try to discuss how you can, raise the bar on what your predecessors have achieved. More than just maintaining processes, what can you do to raise the bar or contribute more? So yeah, that contribute where it matters and try to make a difference. And choose a field that you deeply care about so that learning is fun. So I chose the environmental sciences because it's something that I've always wanted since I was little. I've always wanted to understand how all these things work and what your role is in this ecosystem and how in these connections and variations and how how you can impact for the betterment of these systems and processes, and optimize on any opportunity that you get and continue to value and develop your networks. So that pretty much sums up my career talk for today, and I hope you find some takeaways that you may reckon is valuable, that could also help your journey. Thank you.
Thank you, Lamba, for your talk. I completely agree with the whole leveraging networks. That's really important, especially here in Fiji, where we have such a small community. Does anybody have any questions for Lamba before I possibly bomb?
Yes, Lani.
I don't know if Lani's clapping or if she wants to ask a question, but I think they're all clapping.
Oh.
Or celebrating. Yeah, it's like celebrating. Okay, great. I don't know why Aileen has like a coffee on her. Okay, Namaya has a question.
She's ready to go next.
There we go. Namaya.
Hello everyone. Thank you, Lamba, for that very informative presentation. I quite enjoyed it. I always like it when you present because you bring the real life experience of someone in our field and what they've gone through. My question is towards how do you deal with and this is coming from new graduates applying for jobs. How do you deal with rejections from the companies that you apply for? Endless applications that you may submit and you may not hear from them for quite a while. Like, is there any advice you would give to me as a new graduate applying for a new job and being rejected? Thank you.
Thanks, Nemaya. I'm not sure how relevant what I'll say is to that question, but from my experience, when I was doing consultancies and then I came to look for a full-time job. So one of my mentors had told me, just increase the probability of your getting a job, and for every 10 applications, you may get one. So I would send out resumes to a lot of agencies, but the one I was targeting the most was the Ministry of Lands. And the position that I, for example, applied for, it takes months for the recruitment process and all. But then someone that application and had an opening in the Ministry of Land and then asked for that CV from HR and then called me to apply for another position. So I guess you maybe just increase your chances by just putting yourself out there more. And more than writing and sending the CVs, maybe you can just say, I'm a graduate, you just pop into some networking events or some like set up a meeting with the director and talk about, what would you like me helping with? Just putting yourself out there more, and then it increases your chances. Somewhere along the line, someone's going to pick up that CV and find an opening or find an opportunity that they could engage you in. So like in other words, the opening that opened up for Ministry of Land was even much better than the position I was actually applying for. But it came because I was sending those details to them, and then somebody picked up that CV from HR. And so I'm like just thinking probability-wise, just to increase your chances. Just network more and put your CVs out there more and follow up.
Yeah.
You need to, you meet heads of departments in networking events, maybe just strike up a conversation and say, hey, sometimes they're not aware that, you had sent resumes to their HR department. Maybe strike up a conversation with them. They can maybe see an opening, maybe not in the exact a position you applied, but another opening, and then you can work your way from there once you're in the agency.
Thank you very much for that answer. I think that I got the answer that I wanted. Yeah, I think it's pretty challenging for us too, because like as Pacific Islanders, speaking out and networking is kind of like a wall that we have to try and break away. So thank you for that. Can I ask another question real quick? Sorry, I'm
holding up the please space. Go ahead.
You mentioned that you have a master's degree. Do you think that's necessary for today's market to have a master's degree level education?
Yeah, during our parents' time, I think the bachelor's was really like your ticket. But I think it puts you in a better position if you have a master's. It helps. Well, I think it helped with my journey.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, yeah, I think it goes back to what you were saying of maximizing opportunities, right? You want to stand out and you want to stand out from the very diluted work market that we are in now. I mean, Eusp just started offering the GIS program undergrad.
But then again,
so
sometimes there are perceptions that there are undergraduates that could do the job better than someone holding a master's. So it comes down to leveraging opportunities. Once you're given an opening, you prove yourself. So still, even when you have a master's, you still need to prove that you're the best person to help meet their needs. Help move things for the agency.
Yeah. Said. Thank you so much, Lamba. It's open to the other participants.
Does anybody else have any questions for Lamba? I mean, even if you don't, we could discuss more at the the end of the talks. Yes.
Yeah, guys, this is a good networking opportunity as well. Yes, Lamba is pretty like very networking. So feel free.
Thank you, Lamba, for your talk. I think it's interesting that your information, your advice too, is the same advice that I've probably been getting from people around me, especially with networking and learning new skills and finding the passion for what you're doing. So we'll just move on to our next presenter. Our next presenter is Shaheel Ram. I hope I'm sharing his lovely photo. So Shaheel is a geospatial officer that's working with the Fiji Geospatial Information Support Center, FGI, at the GIM division at the Ministry of Lands and Mineral Resources. Everybody knows the GIM division is responsible for handling all official geospatial data. He graduated in 2022 with a Bachelor's of Geospatial Science from the University of the South Pacific. And in terms of career progression, Shaheel spent a lot of time interning at Eusp as well as the Ministry of Lands and Mineral Resources before attaining his current role. He currently conducts a lot of capacity building to internal and external clientele and manages the spatial data repositories as well as online web maps that the GIM division is responsible for. And he's also the secretary for the Fiji GIS and Remote Sensing User Forum. So you would have seen him at some of our the Fiji GIS User Forum meetings. So welcome, Shaheel, if you're ready to take the stage.
Hi, Carol. Hello, everybody. Man, there was one very, very overrated introduction, but thank you so much again.
You're welcome.
I don't have anything particular like a PowerPoint slide or anything. I'll just be talking about what my university experience was. I entered USP in the year 2017, and I literally didn't know anything about GIS, to be honest. I only took GIS because I wanted to learn how to do mapping. And through that, I asked one of my family members to advise me to take GIS. So when I came to USP, I saw Geospatial Information Management, GIS, which is also known as Geospatial Science. So I was looking at it and I was like, okay, let me just give it a shot because it had programming in it. And I was never that good with computer. So I went through with Geospatial Science and then I started off with my degree. I spent approximately 4 years. Yes, I failed units. I failed my ST130 a couple of times, probably 2-3 times, but that did not put me down in not attaining my degree. Finished while doing my degree, I was a residential assistant at the USP halls of residence, and then later on took over the role of commercial student assistant at USP Commercial Operations. From commercial operations, I had applied for internships numerous places, SPC, SOPEC, also applied at Ministry of Lands and the Minerals Department. So Ministry of Lands actually got back to me and they had an opening for an intern. So they took me in. I started my internship in 2020 in August, 18th August. I interned with the Ministry of Lands for approximately 9 months. And then I had finally been chosen as to the post of Geospatial Officer. Now, with the internship came a lot of challenges where I would see myself as very fortunate to have peers in my own team who are actually always there, because while you're an intern, you don't actually get paid by the ministry. It doesn't look like that in the government sector apparently, but nevertheless, it didn't stop me from attaining where I am today. As I had stepped up from an intern to a geo, there were multiple challenges that I had faced, but these challenges were basically things that I had to just grab my hands on, because while I was an intern, I was always being exposed to the GIS world, to the customers and the clients who were liaising with me with regards to OneWorldView, which is an online web application that we sell to private organizations that are not members of the council. Moving on, apart from most of them, all the challenges that I had faced were pretty much tackled with only having one thing in mind, that I'm here to gain experience and to actually stand up on my 2 feet, and probably one day I might just be holding on to a post, which thank God came to life. And I'm just gonna rope in Nemia's question, which was also part of my talk, is what happens when you apply for a job and it gets rejected. Most of you must have known that there was full recruitments that were done last year in August with regards to the post at Lands Department. I did not make it through the SGO, did not make it to the AGO, Assistant Geospatial and Senior Geospatial. And I was so disturbed. I had called Carol. I spoke to Carol about it. I was like full on drowning and crying away. And then Carol was like, did you apply for any other post? And I told her, and she was like, okay, probably this is it. Okay, so I had my chin up, set for the job test, got a brief answer, set for my interview, and then waited. The day I got my provisional, I actually sat down and thought to myself that if that day Carol had not actually told me that, you know, it might be the geospatial officer that she might get, I would have legitimately committed a suicide mission, because life was getting so hard. I had COVID, I had my own expenses to look at, and then I was not having a stable accommodation. So all these challenges that were always coming in my life didn't stop me from actually, you know, getting where I am today. So if you have any questions with regards to data sharing, how to carry on with web apps, what to do, how to do, and what data are we custodians of, or anything of that sort, please feel free to just drop an email with me. My email, you can find it with Carol, or even I'm on LinkedIn, you can get it from there. For my future goals, I would say that I would want to further my studies, probably reach my master's first, and then see how things goes. And for all the listeners who are unemployed at the moment, remember, there will be a day, there will be a time where you will be sitting on a chair and you will actually be doing work. But doesn't mean that you don't do anything right now. Get on Esri's online courses or any online courses that are free with regards to GIS, and just keep on practicing it. If you have any challenges and difficulties, speak about it to people. Don't keep it to yourself. And all in all, just be patient. Everything will fall in its place when it's the right time and the right place. Thank you.
Cool. Thank you so much, Shaheel, for your talk, your experience, but also your motivational speech. You got a lot of hearts and claps. Does anybody have any questions for Shaheel? I don't want to be the only one to like bombard him, but I know you only just started working in your role. So how has it been so far, and what kind of, I mean, compared to probably your internship to the role that you have now, like are there any challenges that you faced, or like how different is it?
Well, it's a huge shoe to fill for like from an intern to a GO, because the position of a GO, it doesn't only look into the technical side of it, it looks for the admin as well. So anytime my supervisor, Mr. Bulimarangana, is not in the office, I have to man both the SGO and the GO's post, which was very challenging, because when I actually started, my SGO was with the Ministry of Health. He was with the COVID response team, so I was helping out with getting FGI back up and running, because after the cyber attack that you all must be aware of, most of our web apps, most of our online dashboards were all down. So reviving it and actually looking for everything, where it was stored, how it was stored, it was something that was very challenging, but we're working on it, and I'm grateful that I had people at Ministry of Lands in team who actually were there to know. Don't worry, just always take a breath. Don't think too much about it. You'll pull it through. So yeah, those were some of the challenges, Carol. But I think that those challenges were something that were meant to come towards my way, and just to get me more worked up and to know, like, to tell me this is how you will actually be serving this role. Yeah.
That's good to hear. Does anybody have any questions for Shaheel? I don't want it to just be like a one-way conversation between me and Shaheel. As he's already alluded to, we've had lots of conversations. Okay, Nomaya has a question. Please, Nomaya.
Hi, Shaheel. Thank you for that presentation. I think my only takeaway from the presentation today was how you mentioned that it is important to have a support network around you, especially early on in your career. And I think that's where the OSM Fiji group is trying to fill that gap, to have groups like this to come and bring people in our area of work together so that we can talk and chat and network. So I think this OSM Fiji volunteer group is definitely a platform that people can use to network and as support as well. I think we had map and chat hours late last year, and this was the intentions of having events like this. So thank you for that, Shaheel.
Thanks, Namaya and Shaheel. Does anybody else have anything for Shaheel? Speak now, forever hold your peace.
Sorry, just another thing. Maybe we can post the email addresses of the speakers and the contact details.
I mean, if they allow us.
Yeah, if they allow us.
On
our socials.
We'll definitely ask around, but I mean, if anyone wants to get in touch, whether it's with Lemba or Shaheel or Eileen or Aquila, I guess you could always email one of us on the team or the OSM Fiji Gmail, which is just osmfiji@gmail.com, to get in touch or put us and you in touch with one of them. I think maybe that could be a better way so we can filter who wants to talk to these people instead of having like randos calling. Sometimes it's a bit like, I get that sometimes and I'm like, who are you? I know it's a small community here in Fiji, but like, especially GIS professionals, and there's a lot of graduates coming up now that want to work in the GIS industry who are not necessarily part of the GIS industry. Maybe they're from like an environmental background, or even, like a IT or math background, and they want to work in this area. So some of them that do contact us, we're like, who are you? We don't know them. So I think events like this are very important. And if you don't already know, I think it's really great to maybe, there's a Facebook group, right, for the Fiji GIS user group that you can sign up to kind of be a part of those monthly meetings that they usually have. That's a great networking event too, because that's actually how I got my job at Lens. I went as like an intern and I was like, can I come to work for government? And I just like begged, and they're like, just send your CV. So for those who are interested in, working at Lens, whether that's the GIM division or even MRD, I would urge you to be a part of the user group, because yeah, I mean, I got an internship from GIM from one of those meetings, and then I got an offer for a job from one of those meetings, but I was like, I don't think you know me. I didn't take it, but that's what Limba and I guess Shaheel have kind of alluded to. Okay, enough of me rambling. Thank you, Shaheel. I guess it's good to move on now and segue to Eileen. So Eileen is our next speaker. She's a research associate From Eusp, I think if you're in the industry, you know, you've seen Aileen around. She's very enthusiastic about her work, but also in terms of volunteering. She has a background in environmental science and geoscience, and land management, and has a passion for sustainable development and improved environmental practices. So as I mentioned, she's currently a research associate at Eusp and has been involved with not only Fiji, but the OSM community as of actually early 2020, having helped organize the Fiji Oceania Conference, the Fiji Hub, but also the Fiji Jazz User Conference. She's most notable for her contribution to the growth of the usage of drones and capacity building among young women. She's actually a small part of a really niche and neat group of young women in STEM that's actually encouraging our younger generation to get involved. So Aileen, welcome.
Hi, Carol. Thanks for the introduction. I think I might be copy pasting that and using that in my cover letter.
Sure. More than welcome.
I'm going to just share my screen. How do I do this? Can you guys see that?
Yes.
No, yes. Okay, cool. All right, hi. So yeah, I didn't know that there would be an introduction, but for those who don't know me, my name's Aileen. So far I have 4 years of experience in the geospatial science industry. Currently employed at the University of the South Pacific. As Carol mentioned, I work with collecting GIS data with drones for disaster response, conservation, and a lot of youth-related drone projects dealing with young girls in STEM. In terms of my educational pathway, in 2017, I graduated with my Bachelor's of Commerce in the discipline of Land Management Development and Geospatial Science. And the end of 2018, I earned my postgraduate diploma in environmental geoscience, and I'm currently enrolled in Masters of Geospatial Science. No one tells you how hard it is to write a thesis. In terms of my career path, while I was still doing my undergrad, I joined the senior peer mentoring program in both disciplines. And this was probably the first job that ever paid me. And it kind of helped me decide whether I wanted to pursue a career that dealt with teaching. It also exposed me to different types of students from all over the region, from different Pacific Island countries. So that really helped develop my interpersonal skills. Yeah. And then I did this for 2 years, and then I got an internship with the professional valuations. And this was my first real industrial job, meaning my first 7 to 5 job. And it was quite different. I learned how deadlines work, how cutthroat it was, being there on time. So I developed all those little skills, which make you a better person, I believe. And during this role, I actually got to see how GIS is used in other sectors, and to the point of something as simple as a land parcel being mapped, like how it's valuable to valuation offices. And I was still in this role when I got my job as a research associate at Eusp. And this was based with a project based in Eusp called Tradition and Technology. And it basically dealt with disseminating geospatial technology into communities, all about capacity building, giving geospatial tools back to the locals and letting them solve the environmental crisis that they're facing. And that's when we were exposed to drones. We started using drones to collect data with survey equipment. And after that, I had a short gig with Lamba, and it was just a 4-month gig, but it was really fun. I got to work with other group groups, and we used a lot of GIS applications to solve case studies. And I had that gig, and now I'm back at Eusp because, yeah. So yeah, a lot of community mapping, community engagements and outreach in traditional Itoke villages. As we mentioned, youth-related drone programs where we try to encourage young girls to get into STEM-related activities. It's not only boys that can fly drones, girls can do it too. And forest mapping, post-disaster assessments, and capacity building. A little about what I do. I don't know why I added this slide, but for those who are interested, when it comes to UAV mapping, there's three major things that you would concentrate on. First is equipping yourself to fly a drone. Now, flying a drone is not rocket science. It's very easy, but what a remote pilot license gives you is the ability to control a drone manually if something is to go wrong. We see a lot of startup businesses in Fiji where they fly drones and they map communities or they map sites, but there's a lot more that goes beneath the surface, such as drone insurance, having your permit to fly, all this costs money. The second thing that I consider important is data collection. Now, drones are just a medium to collect data, but it's collecting the data is an art itself. And when you're flight planning or collecting data in different environments, then you'll be mindful of the type of data you collect. Per se, collecting data for forestry is going to be different for urban dwellings. With forestry, you're dealing with vegetation, wind, and the vegetation moves. So you'd want a higher overlap, flying at a higher height, whereas urban dwellings would differ. And then the third step is obviously data processing. We use Pix40 to process our data here at Eusp, but there are other open source softwares out there too, such as Drone Deploy, Agisoft, and yeah. So then we use the data that we've collected to with GIS applications to make maps. So that's essentially the workflow that I use in my day-to-day work. Some of the softwares that I've found myself using over the years are as follows. Most of those are GIS applications, but one thing I have learned when you're doing any job, you will have your core GIS deliverables that you have to meet, but then you'll have ad hoc tasks as well. And one thing I found myself doing quite a lot in Eusp is communication. Somehow I found myself there writing blogs, writing newspaper pieces, and doing a lot of presentations for conferences. And Canva was a very useful tool. So I urge all of you to have a look at it. It's a very simple tool, dummied down for people who don't know graphics. That's how I started. I made this presentation on Canva. I'm a big fan. Did my CV on Canva. Have a look. So yeah. And moving on, what Sahil said about having a support group, I love that because that's something I hold very close to my heart as well. Over the years, being in different work settings, I've realized that it's the four things that are important to me is a work-life balance. The first year of work, I found myself overloaded. I was working in the day, I was studying at night, and I found that I did not have time for my own social life. And it felt as though I didn't have time to meet up with my friends or family. I didn't have any, I didn't do any physical exercise, so I ended up gaining weight, and it was just a shitty time for me. But it's very important that you take out time for yourself. That's what I mean. Also having an inspirational mentor. Yeah, so jobs are hard to get, but like when you do find jobs, then look for mentors that can help you set goals and give you constructive feedback, and they help in having a new perspective. And look for opportunities which help gain which help you develop your professional life, as in trainings or getting certified. Through Eusp, I was able to get my remote pilot license. I don't think I would have been able to afford to get it myself. And I believe career satisfaction is quite important, because if you're in a job where you're miserable and you're not feeling it, your values don't match, you'll find yourself drained and you won't have any enthusiasm for that job. My advice to people who are still in undergrad or looking for jobs would be to join professional groups and to volunteer your skills. This helps you build your confidence, lets you have a feel of the industry, whether you want to get into it, whether it's something you find happiness in. Find a mentor, and this will also help you expand your network, which is quite important, and it's been reiterated by Lamba in her presentation and Sahil in his. So that's all from me. So thank you. Do you have any questions?
Yeah. Thanks, Aileen. Okay, time for applause. If you want, I can applause for you. Since it's all like emojis, I guess. It's interesting that you mentioned how during your well, I guess you're still at Eusp, but at Eusp you mentioned that you probably wouldn't have gotten your license if you went with Eusp, which I think is really important, because a lot of people actually gain skills from their own workplace, whether that's getting a license for flying a drone or even some scuba diving licenses that they can transfer to the next job. But say if you went employed and you were still a student, are there any particular courses that you would recommend to people to take to kind of upskill themselves in the meantime, or?
Okay, like Sahil also mentioned, like Esri has a huge, certification, a thing where you can take up different courses and get licenses. There's a lot of training available online. I think it's all about looking, and especially being part of these groups such as OSM Fiji, and we have some other networks, Eusp GIS, Geospatial Science Group on Facebook, and Sahil's group as well. Like, I feel as though these are places where you constantly see people posting links or for trainings, or for I noticed Kishan's one of the most active person, always posting NASA training stuff. So yeah, I think also being part of like such a group will just create that exposure for you. Okay, even if you're not looking, like somebody does it for you, so it's helpful. Yeah. Yeah, does that answer your question?
Yeah. Sorry, I didn't word it properly. It's one of those things, where you know what you want to ask, but you can't word it properly. Does anybody have any questions for Aileen while we still have her? I mean, aside from applauding. I think what you just mentioned is a Facebook group. If nobody is part of that Facebook group, it's the Geospatial Science at Eusp group. Is it a group or a page?
It's a group. Eusp Geospatial Science. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. It's a group that you can join, and a lot of people are posting like trainings or even workshops. So even if you're not part of an organization, you can definitely register for those. Some of them are free. I think there was like a massive online online course last year for remote sensing or Earth observation that Eusp was a part of. I hope.
We usually when we have opportunities like this, it's always advertised on social media or through emails, the webpage. So yeah, I think you just have to keep an eye out. Yeah.
Cool. If nobody has Any questions for Aileen, which I'm surprised on? Actually, one thing I want to say is like, good point on talking about how you needed to learn additional skills aside from like GIS skills.
Yeah.
Before, I laughed when you said that you found yourself like constantly making like communications material and like writing articles.
And I didn't mention because I was so nervous. I think for a long time, I think we're talking a few months, I was just writing research grants, trying to look for more funding for the projects. So that was a new thing that I had to learn, reporting to donors, budgets. It was, yeah, it's something I didn't expect when I went into a GIS field, to be getting an Excel sheet and doing debits and credits. So
yeah, I completely agree. I think even Lani would like mention that too. I think at one point we were like, we'd spend weeks just like emailing people to like get presentations for a conference. We're like, this is not our job. But sometimes, your technical work like intersects with like, you know, the community work, but also like having to report to people that aren't within your industry. Like that reporting. Great. Shaheel, thanks you for your great presentation.
Oh, thank you, Shaheel.
Okay.
Oh, no.
Maya always has a question. Now, Maya, would you like to?
I thought I was out the hook.
Sorry.
Not that easy. Sorry, my network is playing up. Thanks for the presentation, Aline. I'm trying to form the question as I'm asking, as I'm speaking. Just out of curiosity, what is your master's research on?
Ooh. So I am, okay. So vulnerability studies in Fiji, so far, trying to ascertain, oh my God, Love is on call. Trying to ascertain vulnerabilities in Fiji. The data tool or that Minister of Economy used in their last adaptation vulnerability assessment was the DIVA tool, which I believe was the methodology was made by Patricia Dumaro, and great work done on it. But they used a lot of socioeconomic tools, meaning questionnaires, asking a lot of questionnaires and interviews in the settlements. So what I'm trying to do is create a toolkit, which I'm calling a geospatial vulnerability assessment, and that's using drones and RTK survey equipment to kind of visualize these hazards and the exposure to these hazards have on communities. So that's basically a Jiva. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So yeah, nothing, and not to replace it, but a toolkit to complement it. So yeah, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it kind of actually does. Thank you so much. That's a very, oh my God, yes, is, wow, that's a very interesting concept. And
yeah, I mean,
looking
like I was
forward to your work.
Oh gosh. I just want to say, no one tells you how hard it is. You need a lot of you need a lot of self-discipline to actually sit down and write. So yeah.
That's true. Currently experiencing that.
And, you know, any pointers, any advices, like, you know,
Don't sleep.
because yeah, procrastination is at the core of my heart. So.
Don't have a Netflix membership. If you want to procrastinate.
Yeah, and I feel, and that's, I really appreciate Sahil. Like he mentioned, he was like, yeah, he failed a few units, he had to redo it, and like that's real. That's what people face. I mean, not everything's a bed of roses, and I think it's also important to talk about the hardships as well as the nice stuff, but the hardships too. So that you don't seem so unattainable. Like, yeah, you're a real person too. Like, you know. So.
That's so true. I was going to add something else. slipped my mind again. Oh, your point about having a balance between a work-life balance is also essential. I think that was a very valid point that that I myself had to kind of realize and had to like choose my battles, and where you have to take care of yourself before you can take care of anyone else. So I
Yeah.
think a work-life balance is also a very good point that you made. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I hope you guys enjoyed that.
Thank you, Eileen. Well, I did. I'm sure a lot of people did. They were clapping, so I'll clap. If you have any more questions for Eileen, I guess we'll have a discussion at the end of Aquila's presentation in his question and answer session. But in the meantime, we'll move on to Aquila, if he's here. I hope he's here. He's here. Okay, cool. So Aquila is currently a technical officer for Geospatial at the Ministry of Lands and Mineral Resources, but at the Mineral Resources Department. He's heavily involved in spatial data management as well as data collection for hazard assessment. He has experiences in open source tools, which is actually quite prevalent in use at the ministry, at the Mineral Resources Department. He was also involved with the Ministry of Health via secondment, where he was brought in to aid the management of the National COVID-19 Results Datasets and Database at the Central and Eastern Division Command Center. So part of the data management team. And as a recent graduate, he's actually experienced life both at an NGO and a government agency as an intern. So without further ado, Aquila, if you are here. Great.
Thank you. Wow, I wonder how you got all that.
I stalked you. I stalked all of them. Stalked all of you, sorry. But I'm updating my information.
Good enough, everyone. Sorry, just like Shaheel, I also did not prepare any PowerPoint presentation. So I just wrote some stuff on this paper. So firstly, I would like to thank the Fiji OSM committee for giving me this opportunity to share my experiences with you all in my early career progression, and also for developing such a platform where we talk about our journey in this career pathway. So just a short introduction about myself. I'm Aquila Voliku. I'm 24 years of age, and I hail from Kandavu, beautiful island of Kandavu, and share maternal links to Nandroa. So GIS, to start with my university experience. Firstly, straight after Form 6 high school, I was planning to do something in geography or teaching. Not really, I didn't know anything about GIS until I joined the College of Foundation Studies. I didn't do Form 7. In my Form 7, I did Foundation. And it was through Foundation where I was exposed to a very short introduction of GIS and remote sensing. Really interested me. And that's where I really wanted to develop my learning in the GIS field. So I wanted to enroll into I wanted to do land management with GIS, but my scholarship program they only gave me the choice to select only a single program. Like I had to only focus on one field. That's why I enrolled into the Bachelor of Geospatial Science program under the analyst stream, where I undertook my favorite subject, geography units, as my elective. And so I completed my undergrad on 2019. And straight after the completion of my studies, I joined the SPC. But before that, I also experienced a lot of rejections. First from SPC, with Carol, I know I was talking with Carol on one internship application, and then I got rejected from that application. And even I applied to FRA, I got rejected from FRA. Then when the SPC internship role was advertised again, I did not hesitate. I still applied, and lucky I got it. And I was fortunate enough to have worked with Lani and the team, Kishan, and it was also through SPC where I was exposed to an open source software like QGIS, where I had my real hands-on experience with QGIS. Because at the Eusp, I didn't even hesitate to even work with QGIS. I was mostly working with ArcGIS. Yeah. So in SPC, my internship role, most of the work was really easy. It was just the processing of metadata for raster datasets like bathymetric raster datasets and topographic raster datasets. It was part of MFAP project where this nice lady, Christine Sirin, she was a lead on that project. So I was very glad to have worked with her on that project. So from SPC, I went on to work with Leo Nimatiwalu in LionJS. In Leo's small company, LionJS Research Services. It was like a drone company where he did data collection for image data collection from drones, and I did various. I was not more involved with the work that he did, because when I joined Leo, the pandemic came. It was in, I think, the beginning, sometime around 2020, I think around April, when COVID started in Fiji. So after from Leo, from LionJS, then I applied to NDMO, and I also applied to the Ministry of Lands, and Mineral Resources. The first call came from Ministry of Lands, where I was called in to start my attachment for 6 months. And when I was working in MRD, and then they put me in Mineral Resources, where I am now. I was working, and then I got the call from NDMO to also start my attachment there, but then I declined the offer. So I stayed with MRD, and it was through this organization that I further enhanced my experiences with open source softwares and programs like QGIS, and also I was introduced to more database management systems like the PostGIS and the extended PostgreSQLite. And I was fortunate enough to have worked with two very, very strong supporters of open source, Keleni and Mr. Akhilesh Kumar. And I've learned a lot from them, and I'm very grateful for it. And late last year, I also applied for the like Shaheel for the assistant geospatial officer at Lens, and I also got rejected from that. But when the post at MRD came out, advertised, I applied for it, and I was fortunate enough to have passed the interview and job test. And the day that I got my provisional letter was one of the, I think, one of the happiest days of my life to finally get a confirmed post. And yeah, so far I'm very happy with what I've achieved. And in the future, I don't see myself leaving MRD anytime soon. I really like it here. The staff, people, what we work with every day, and the new learning and the experiences, the opportunities that this department, this ministry has given me, especially in trainings and engaging myself in field activities. And also, my advice, like what everyone says, just work hard and always strive for the best. And please do not hesitate or be scared to ask questions from anyone, your superior or anyone you work with, may it be a subordinate or your boss. Thank you.
Thank you, Aquila, for your talk. Sorry I rejected you. But if anything, I do remember. But all the CVs that were sent through, I remember keeping them and sending them to Alani and the other team for when they were looking for interns. Oh, Alani, that's so sweet. Alani says she's so proud of you.
Alani.
Everyone's happy. Does anybody have any questions or even a comment? Maybe you've been through similar experiences with Aquila, you're trying to find internships or you're trying to find jobs. Yeah, so if you have anything, please ask him. Well, I'll start. I think you're the more recent graduate out of the lot. So you moved directly from your degree to your internship, right? And I think when you started at SPC as an intern, you would have then been introduced to open source. So what was that transition like for you, moving from like school where you were using Esri to QGIS? Were there any like struggles, and how did you kind of navigate? Did you have any guidance? Did we leave you alone?
The transition was really, they were more similar. So, but I had Kishan there who helped me, Kishan, Lani, and Litia G. But I like QGIS more than I guess. I would say the transition was okay. Yeah. I don't know. Does that answer you?
Yeah, no, that's fine. You don't have to like. So since you started working at MRD and now you're using a lot of open tools, I think you did a hazard assessment for a landslide. So what's your experience being in the real field collecting data?
When I came to MRD, one thing that Kelly was telling me to be more innovative and bring in new ideas on how GIS can be more involved in this organization. So that's where this landslide assessment idea came in. Thank God for Kobo Collect. So developing the form in Kobo Collect and then deploying the form and then using it in field assessments after tropical cyclone Ana and Yasa. And one of the notable experience that I would say would be presenting this data collection method in the STAR conference. That was something big for me personally. And so I'm thankful especially to this GIS community in Fiji that we have for bringing up new ideas and new methods and new techniques of involving GIS in our career.
Does anybody else have any questions for Aquila? Oh, of course, Namaya always. Namaya, please go ahead.
Hello, Aquila. Thank you so much for that presentation. I think what Aquila is a good example of, putting themselves out there. In 2020, we organized the first ever Force 4G conference in Suva, and Aquila was part of the committee. So I think that was like part of the, it comes in the around the same topic of, putting yourself out there and getting involved with other things outside of your own chosen GIS work. Yeah, I think we just forgot to mention that he was part of the committee as well in trying to organize our conference in 2020, which seems like ages ago, but it was just like 2 years ago.
It was ages ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, I forgot to mention that. Hopefully we'll have another hub this year. Or an in-person conference. I'd love an in-person conference. Is there any question you want to ask, Aquila?
No.
Why was this application rejected?
Huh?
Oh. Oh, why was the application from my end or from Aquila's end?
I'm just joking, Carol. Never mind.
I feel bad. I think that's one thing that I really hate is when we're doing a call. Well, I don't work anymore, but when we're doing a call for interns, it's really hard because you see the amount of applications that you get. And I think for the first call that we did, we had 30 or 40, which is basically a graduating year from the Geospatial science program. And the first round that we did, we had interviews, which we've never really done. Before, we used to hire interns just based on their CV. If they wrote a cover letter, then they wrote a cover letter. And if it's one thing about me when I was going through interns, I'm more conscious about the type of person I'm working with, because if I'm working with them, it's important. So for me, forget your skills, you're an intern, you're getting this internship to build up your skills. But I think for me, it's more the personality, whether I'll get along with them. I might seem patient, but I'm not really patient. So for me, the way I chose interns were interns that I know would speak up. And especially if I'm wrong, I like self-development and self-growth. So I don't know if a lot of people know this, but if you know Kamchin was actually my first intern. And if you look at it, you're like, why would you hire her? The reason we hired her was that exact reason, is because she was very outspoken and because she was very driven. And I think that kind of personality worked well in our team, because we all had different personalities. Some of us were introverted, some of us were, cool and calm. So to try and mix up the dynamics was very important for me. But for other guys, like the Oceans team, I know the way that they looked at their interns was just based on their qualifications that they had. So it seemed like they were hiring mostly students that have either doing their postgraduate studies or doing their masters. So for me, I'm sorry, it wasn't a personal attack. But I noticed one thing too is when we were looking for interns, is we actually kept the stack of CVs. So if there's an internship that did come about, we used that existing stack. And then we also added the new ones that did apply, and we'll post it for like a day or two on the Geospatial Science group. So, I mean, that was my perspective. I think the second time we looked for an intern, I was so distraught because we got like 2 guys that came in and just like didn't want to say anything. Like they were just like, yeah, I like GIS. And I'm like, okay. Why do you want to work here? And they're just like, I'm just looking for an internship. So I think even the way you present yourself, you have to kind of understand why you're applying for an internship in the first place. Like what drives you to apply? Is it money, or you want to learn skills, or did you apply just because it was there? I mean, even if you did apply because it was just there, like at least lie. Just be like, I want to work in this organization. I want to make a difference. So yeah, I think that was a very long-winded explanation of how we went about, how I personally went about with choosing interns. We looked more at the dynamics of the team and how they can add to that. So yeah, sorry, Aquila, but you ended up well. You're at MRD. You're doing some interesting field work and some field activities, and you're in a really good team. Akhilesh and Akilini are very supportive. They're very good at sharing opportunities. So does anybody have any questions for Aquila? I don't want to talk too much. I already talked too much. Or if you have any questions for Shaheel or Lamba or Aileen, it would be great if you could speak now or forever hold your peace before we move to our community updates. Does anybody have any questions? I mean, it doesn't have to be a question. You could even raise a point. Maybe you have some advice yourself. Creak, creak. Okay, Shaheel. Great.
Just a point where what I think that most of the new graduates should know. Like Carol had mentioned, there were these 2 guys who walked in and said, we love GIS. So being in an organization and finally sitting at a chair or finally having a post, then you can actually see on, what were the expectations of your seniors or your superiors. So something that the new graduates and the new GIS specialists that are coming out, they need to know how to sell themselves. Not sell themselves like to sell themselves, but like
you need to sell yourself. Sell your clothes. I'm kidding.
But like just you have to bring something to the table in order to get something off the table. That's the simplest way I think I could put it. Like you have to bring something up that they will really, really like, and then you will eventually make it to the cut. That's something like one of the tips that I think you should keep in mind all the time.
Yeah, I completely
Thank
agree.
you.
Yeah, I think that's something that Leva also alluded to, is like finding that niche where you could actually make a difference, and that would help you discover or find a pathway as you navigate your career. Does anybody have any suggestions, or even you want to give some free advice, or you want to hear more from any one of our 4 speakers? Just check the chat quickly.
Yeah, Carol, maybe
Yes.
I'll just add to that. Another thing that employers look for is we know when they're looking or scoping for interns is someone that can complement the team. Like you have a quality that they really see would strengthen the team. Like for us, for the common sensing, we had Aline last year for as an intern, and I thought we got lucky with her because I wasn't sure if she would be interested to join. But it's getting her strength, like really tech savvy. really in tune with the latest development in this space. And she's also quite good in networking and getting the gist of issues that we saw her strengths really complementing the team and the delivery of the work the common sensing was doing in Fiji. So that's one area that maybe you could, interns could look at targeting what the agency that you wish to join, etc.
Yeah, I completely agree. Yeah, the complementing part is so important because even if your personalities clash, whether that's like professional or or personal issues, sometimes it can get in the way of like the actual work. Yeah, it's good. Aileen joined the team. Aileen, do you want to talk about your experience working with Lumba?
Yeah, it was really fun. Not that I'm saying I didn't have fun working at Eusp, but it was a type of fun. I think it was nice to take a break from the drone scene and to focus on some GIS applications, looking at some land change detection with satellite imagery and working with different people. And I think once working with Lamba, I realized I actually enjoy working with other people as well. And because our OG team at USP, which Wise, Simisi, and Amrita, like that, like you're comfortable, but then you put in a different environment, and it's nice to see that you're still able to, have still be like cheerful and still get the work done. So it was a bit of it kind of reassured me that my personality is quite interchangeable, and I'm a good person when it comes to personality. So working with different groups, it was nice, and did a lot of stuff with QGIS, which I didn't do in USP because Esri license is available here. But it was nice. It was refreshing, and it kind of got me excited about GIS again. So yeah, it was nice.
Oh, that's good to hear. That actually reminds me, Lani's here, and Lani was kind of overseeing Aquila. Lani, you want to share some? A little bit about your experience working with Aquila, while we're at it, or I think maybe she's having issues with trying to unmute herself. Okay, that's fine. Does anybody else want to say something before we move on, or provide some advice, some parting advice? Namaya, would you like to say something?
No, just want to thank the participants for showing up. We have a total of up to at one point 20 participants showing up for our talk today, our event. I don't know if you've talked about the mapathon tomorrow, Gal.
No, we haven't. If you'd like to talk about it,
Okay.
Yep.
No, I'll leave that to you. Thank you.
Well, yeah, just as Nomaya alluded, thank you everybody, especially to our speakers coming today and sharing about their journey. It's I think it's a very unique opportunity because they're sharing, I guess, in depth their CVs in a way, and talking about the process of how they apply for jobs and then progress throughout their career, which I think is really interesting. And if you like to talk like this and you want to suggest more, please do send us an email at osmfiji@gmail.com. Yeah. So quickly, I'll just do just 3 slides of community updates before we close off for today. As Nomai mentioned, we have a mapathon tomorrow at the same time, same place. And Namaya will be leading that tomorrow, which should be really great. We also have our field data collection planning in progress, where we'll be updating mainly the attributes for the super buildings. I don't know if she's still online, but Emelina is actually responsible for this. But if you want to be a part of that, or you want to, join us, you can email us, or you can contact us on our socials that I've listed on the slide. And very quickly, I think it's really cool that we've been seeing a number of you at the Map and Chat hours for the Open Mapping Hub Asia Pacific. There was one girl who won a drone, or she won a GPS receiver a couple of months back, which is really cool. And you get to play bingo, but you also get to interact with a lot of people from the Asia Pacific region. So definitely follow their socials, whether that's the Twitter or the Facebook. They post a lot of workshops. They share a lot of workshops within the Asia Pacific region, but also they have that Map and Chat hour, which is fun. And then there's 3 jobs that are posted recently, all based in Fiji. If you're interested, if you're looking for a job, there's a kind of an entry-level one. It's a geospatial technician at SBC. If you have a lot of experience and you want to do some team leading, you can apply for the survey team leader or the research fellow at Eusp. And if anybody would like to share any updates they have for their community, speak now. And if you want to share something that's happening in your, Shaheel has something to say. Shaheel, please.
Sorry guys, just wanted to inform you all that the next GIS and RS forum will be held on the 8th of February, and Aquila MRD is hosting. Thank you.
This will be online too, right?
Yeah, this will be online. It'll be on, the links will be all provided, and it'll be posted everywhere. And
Great.
I'll send it to you as well, Carol, so you can put it on your
I'll
FB
definitely
page.
do that.
Yeah,
I'll definitely do that. Again, another networking opportunity. And I guess you also get to hear updates from the organizations that are present, but also you have a couple of talks scheduled about the work people are doing currently. Yeah, I don't have anything else to add. MRD is really great. Thank you, Villa. We'll come to Meadred for some tea. We'll come to Meadred for tea. I have nothing else to add. I'm happy to see a bunch of you come today. Does anybody have any parting words before we end the call? Thanks, guys. That's all you want to say. Well, thank you for attending. I hope I see some of you tomorrow during our mapathon. It's at 2 p.m. And if you're actually interested in getting a little bit more involved with OpenStreetMapping, please send us an email. There's some work you can do for us. If you want, and it counts to volunteerism. Volunteering within our community kind of plays an important part in our professional development, which I think is should be said or emphasized a lot. Thank you once again to our speakers for sharing their personal journeys, their career talks. It's really great to hear some motivational quotes, but also to see how you've all progressed. I wish all of you the best if I don't see you in the near future. Not that I'm going anywhere, but since we can't meet, I genuinely wish you guys all the best. I'm afraid of COVID, but thank you for coming today, and we'll see you tomorrow. So I'll sign off now. Bye, guys.
Thank you, guys.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you. Bye, Namaya.